Welcome to the deep dive. I want you to just take a second and picture the most ambitious thing you've ever built.
Yeah, that could be anything, really. Like a career, a creative project, or maybe just your personal philosophy on life.
Right, exactly. And when you built it, you probably looked up, we all do that, right? We associate success with verticality.
Oh, totally. You want to win, you build the skyscraper, you reach for the stars.
Yeah, and when you finally scrape the sky, society points at you and says, that you've made it. But we have a stack of sources on the table today that is going to fundamentally tear that assumption down to the absolute bedrock.
It really does. It completely inverts the physics of success. We're looking at a creative mandate that treats that upward vertical ambition not as a triumph, but as a terrifying vulnerability.
It's wild. So today, we are immersing you in the universe of a creative studio and channel known as the Obsidian Archives.
Yes. And the materials we have are just incredible. We've got our hands on their master project Bible, some incredibly detailed workflow blueprints, cinematic scripts, and their highly guarded 30-beat storyboards.
And our mission for this deep dive is to deconstruct a staggering, long-form cinematic narrative they've titled Judgment Day in the Underworld, Osiris versus Hell.
Which is just a massive title.
It really is. But look, before we get into the weeds here, let me set the stakes for you.
Yeah.
This is not a dusty textbook retelling of ancient myths.
No, not at all. This isn't about God sitting on clouds throwing lightning bolts at mortals.
Right. So what exactly are they doing here? Because the style is so unique.
Well, the Obsidian Archives has built an aesthetic they call geopolitical noir. They treat these mythological figures, whether it's Egyptian, Norse, or even samurai lore later down the line, as geopolitical hegemons.
Okay, so less magical gods and more like massive militarized superpowers.
Exactly. These sovereigns aren't magical. They are the physical manifestations of irreducible, opposing ideologies locked in an industrialized, brutalist stalemate.
That sounds incredibly intense.
It is. The creators describe the overarching vibe as Southern Gothic noir meets cosmic epic. It is a universe defined by high-stakes melancholy, where the divine is dragged through the dirt.
Wow. I want to focus on that core philosophical anchor of their entire project, which they define as the collision between unchecked power and sacrificial wisdom.
Yes, or, as the storyboard simplifies it, the spire versus the root.
The spire versus the root. I love that imagery.
It's so visceral. The spire represents the expansionist ego. It's this absolute obsession with volume.
And the root represents the foundation, right? It's the mastery of endurance.
Exactly. The guiding mandate of the Obsidian Archives is that true power isn't your ability to expand infinitely upward.
Right. It's not about how tall you can build your tower.
No, true power is your capacity to withstand the crushing weight of reality.
That makes so much sense. And the terminology they use in the Project Bible for the character who ultimately survives these clashes is the scarred winner.
I find that phrase so evocative. The scarred winner.
Yeah, it really paints a picture. In their universe, wisdom is entirely illegitimate unless it is bought with personal cost.
It has to hurt. You have to pay for it.
Let me contextualize that for you, listening right now. Think about the modern business landscape.
Okay, let's hear it.
You have a Silicon Valley tech startup focused entirely on rapid, unsustainable scaling. They are obsessed with volume.
Right, they want aggressive user acquisition, $1 billion valuation.
Exactly. And they build this pristine glass and steel headquarters, but they are burning cash. They have no actual revenue model.
They're just coasting on vibes and venture capital.
Basically. And the moment the market turns or the geopolitical climate shifts, the whole thing shatters because it has no foundational roots.
That's all spire.
Yes, that is the spire. Now contrast that with a multi-generational brick-and-mortar family logistics business.
That was like a totally unglamorous operation.
Completely unglamorous. They own their warehouse. They own their supply chain outright. The margins are tight, and there is literal rust on the delivery trucks.
But they survived.
Exactly. They have survived every single recession, every market crash, and every supply chain crisis for 100 years.
Because they are the root. That is endurance.
That analogy maps perfectly onto the lore of the archives, I think.
It really does. In fact, if we look at the workflow blueprints, they reference a previous volume they produced called the All-Father Clash.
Oh, the one that pitted Zeus against Odin.
Yeah, that's the one. And they use this exact same architectural philosophy for that matchup.
Let me guess, Zeus was the spire.
100%. He was this entity of absolute self-justifying sovereignty who demanded worship simply because he existed at the top of the mountain.
He was the tech startup.
He really was.
But Odin was the brick and mortar business. He was the root.
Exactly. Odin was their original Skard winner because his wisdom wasn't inherited. It was paid for in blood.
Right. The mythology says he sacrificed his own eye for knowledge.
Yeah, and he hung himself from the world tree. His power was bone deep because he paid the physical invoice for his foundation.
That is such a gritty way to interpret those myths.
It is. So the mandate moving forward into this new project, Osiris versus Hell, is that this ideological DNA has to dictate every single visual, auditory, and structural choice on the screen.
Which brings up a massive question for me, just regarding the mechanics of this universe.
Sure, what is it?
Well, in traditional mythology, Osiris is Egyptian and Hell is Norse. They exist in entirely different cosmologies.
Right, historically they would never interact.
So how do they even meet in the script? I assumed they were going to do some kind of parallel universe or multiverse trick.
Which, let's be honest, is a bit overdone these days.
Oh, totally overdone. Everyone is doing a multiverse.
Well, the Project Bible specifically outlaws the multiverse trope.
Really? No multiverse at all?
None. In the Obsidian Archives, they operate on what they call a shared cosmic grid.
A shared cosmic grid? What does that mean exactly?
It means the Underworld isn't some ethereal spiritual realm. It is a literal, physical, terrestrial plane.
Okay, so they physically share borders.
Exactly. Deities are essentially rival superpowers bordering each other on a singular, infinite landmass.
Oh, I see. So the tension comes from the fact that these opposing philosophical structures are physically encroaching on each other's territory.
Yes. It shifts the narrative from a magical fantasy into a territorial resource war.
Which makes the architectural choices in the script so much more vital.
It grounds everything. It makes the stakes physical.
So to see this philosophy in action, we have to look at the two sovereigns locked in this terminal stalemate.
And the script organizes this clash into 4 distinct movements.
Let's dive into movement 1 then. This introduces the embodiment of absolute volume. This is Osiris and the vanity of the gilded spire.
Now, if you were expecting the classical Egyptian god of resurrection, the benevolent figure wrapped in linen, you need to discard that image entirely.
Right, no mummies here.
None. The script frames this version of Osiris as a detached divine CEO of a hyper-sterilized digital afterlife.
He's the architect of Mahat, which they refer to here as the Solar Hall.
The character design notes for him are wildly specific. He has this sharp, aggressive Art Deco silhouette.
And he is flanked by these massive cantilevered solar plating wings, right?
Yes, and his color palette is strictly limited to blinding gold, stark white, and a clinical velvet indigo for the negative space.
That choice of Art Deco is a deliberate historical weaponization by the creators, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Think about Art Deco in the 1920s. The Chrysler Building, the Great Gatsby era.
It's an aesthetic defined by excess, rapid upward mobility, and the illusion of infinite geometric perfection.
Exactly. And what happens at the end of the 1920s? The market crashes. Art Deco completely ignores the impending economic collapse.
So Osiris is the ultimate embodiment of that 1920s hubris.
He is. He rules from the gilded spire, this extreme vertical monolith composed of polished obsidian and chrome.
But the most terrifying detail in the cinematic storyboard is the base of the spire.
Oh, it's so unsettling.
It doesn't have one. There is no base.
It lacks a physical anchor to the earth entirely. It just tapers into a needlepoint, suspended over an abyss.
That is wild. Let's walk through the sensory details of these first 10 beats, because the script treats the audio just as rigorously as the visuals.
The sound design is phenomenal.
So beat 1 opens, and you don't hear angelic choirs or majestic orchestral swells.
No, the sound effect mandated in the script is the low, rhythmic hum of a pressurized vacuum,
mixed with the crystalline chimes of shifting glass.
Think about the psychological impact of that sound design. A pressurized vacuum immediately tells the listener that this environment is fundamentally hostile to organic life.
It's sterile, like an operating room almost.
Or an anechoic chamber, or even just diving deep underwater. That hum isn't peaceful. It's the sound of immense artificial pressure barely keeping the void out.
It reminds me of the ambient noise inside a commercial airplane cabin at cruising altitude.
Yes, that's a perfect comparison.
You are artificially sustained in a place you have no business being.
And then we hit beat 2. Osiris steps out onto this cantilevered gold ledge.
There are harsh shadows, anamorphic flares bleeding off his geometric rings.
And his very first line of dialogue is so telling. He says, Gravity is a choice I have not yet made.
It's an astonishing display of arrogance.
He literally views physical laws as optional suggestions that simply don't apply to his tax bracket, so to speak.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second.
Oh, sure, good.
Because I was reading through the margins of the Project Bible, and it treats Osiris with this immense, suffocating dread.
It does. He's terrifying in this script.
But isn't the drive to build upward, to elevate yourself above the dirt, traditionally the engine of human progress? Why does the script mandate that Osiris's golden light is an interrogative clinical force rather than a beacon of hope?
That's a really good question.
I mean, we usually associate light with salvation.
You're touching on the genius of the geopolitical noir aesthetic here.
Yeah.
In this universe, light without heat is just radiation.
Wow. Light without heat is just radiation.
Yeah. The script uses the concept of volume as a pejorative because it represents growth divorced from sustenance. It's a tumor.
Ah, okay. So his ambition isn't about lifting a civilization up from the ground.
No, it's about escaping the reality of the ground entirely, so he doesn't have to deal with the messiness of endurance.
When he says in beat 4, more is the only truth, he reveals the flaw in his operating system.
Exactly. He is constantly adding tiers to his spire out of thin air, mistaking his altitude for security.
That is perfectly visualized in beats 6 and 7.
Remind me of the framing there.
Osiris is striding along this narrow gold ledge that spans the horizon, and he says, "The spire rises because I command the sun."
Oh, right. And then the storyboard dictates a hard cut to a wide shot, looking straight down past his feet.
The spire just ends. It tapers into a point over a bottomless indigo abyss. There is no floor beneath him.
And the sound design in that specific moment drops the vacuum hum entirely and replaces it with the hollow whistle of a dry sky.
It's pure structural horror.
It really is. It's the realization that you are at the top of a ladder that isn't leaning against anything.
By the time we reach beats 9 and 10, the cracks are starting to show.
The script notes that the spire is subtly vibrating.
Yeah, it's throwing off these blinding, erratic pulses of light, and Osiris is shouting over a high-pitched harmonic ringing.
He screams, "I am the height of existence."
It is genuinely exhausting just reading those beats. You realize that his existence requires constant, frenetic, hyper-vigilant energy just to stop himself from falling into the abyss.
It's like high-frequency trading algorithms, keeping the stock market afloat on sheer processing speed alone.
Which brings us to the inevitable counterforce.
Right, because if Osiris commands the sky, the reality is that stars don't have floors.
We have to travel down past that abyss into the crushing claustrophobic pressure of the Earth to meet his geopolitical opposite.
Movement 2, Hell and the reality of the obsidian root.
The transition between these two movements is designed to give the audience whiplash.
We go from the fragile, vibrating, hyperclean gold of the sky, and we violently slam into beat 11, the Iron Necropolis.
The character design for Hell is such a radical departure from everything Osiris represents.
They call her the Iron Matriarch.
Where Osiris is sleek, vertical, and chrome, Hell has a massive, heavy, low center of gravity silhouette.
She is entirely clad in brutalist iron armor. And the Project Bible notes that this armor is etched with glowing amber runes.
But these aren't magical spells, are they?
Nope, the Bible explicitly states these runes are the visual, metallurgical record of her personal cost.
She is the scarred winner in the flesh.
And look at how the visual palette violently shifts. The blinding gold, the stark white, the clean indigo gone entirely.
We are submerged in a world of heavy horizontal density. Her mandated palette is frost, industrial gray, and a very specific shade of rust that they label oxidized ochre.
The entire environment is built on muted, low-light textures of decay and survival.
The soundscape undergoes a massive transformation as well.
For beats 11 through 20, that pressurized vacuum hum and the delicate glass chimes are completely stripped away.
Instead, we are hit with the heavy, rhythmic grinding of rusted gears. We hear massive iron chains dragging slowly across wet stone.
There are these low-frequency groans of shifting metal that are designed to literally make the cinematic frame shudder.
And cutting through all of it is the constant, aggressive hiss of high-pressure steam.
It creates a deeply humid, heavy atmosphere. It's the exact opposite of the dry, sterile vacuum of the solar hall.
It feels like the engine room of a dreadnought.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. And the architectural symbolism of the Iron Necropolis, which they also refer to as the obsidian root, is vital here.
While Osiris builds upward into the empty sky to escape the Earth, Hell builds downward into the permafrost to hold it.
Her city is composed of subterranean furrows and brutalist block structures hugging the frozen ground.
Brutalism is such a fascinating architectural choice for her.
It makes perfect sense, though.
It does. Because unlike Art Deco, which tries to hide the structure behind chrome and decoration, brutalism is all about exposed concrete, raw iron, and honesty.
It doesn't pretend to be beautiful. It just promises not to collapse.
And her dialogue in this movement is the perfect counterpunch to Osiris's arrogance.
In Beat 14, the camera pans over these massive, monolithic industrial blocks, and she simply says, "Build deep or do not build at all."
And then we get to Beat 16, which I think contains the thesis statement for her entire ideology.
Her frost-gray armored hand reaches out and touches a massive, rusted gear that is turning the city.
And she says, "Every stone here is paid for in blood."
Think about how that directly interrogates Osiris's claim that gravity is a choice.
It totally dismantles it. Osiris believes he can simply opt out of the laws of physics and the consequences of existence by ascending high enough.
But Hell knows better. Hell knows that every single ounce of stability in the universe has a brutal invoice attached to it.
Nothing is free.
Exactly. I want to dig into the thematic use of the rust palette here, because I think it's brilliant, but it initially confused me.
Oh, how so?
Well, in almost all media, rust signifies weakness. It means neglect. It means something is broken or dying.
That is the standard interpretation, yes.
But the Obsidian Archives recontextualizes rust completely. In their lore, rust is not a symptom of death.
It is a texture representing the cost of time and the grit of survival.
Think about what rust actually is chemically. It is an oxidation layer. In certain metals, that initial layer of rust actually seals and protects the core from further corrosion.
Oh, like weathering steel, the stuff they use for bridges and shipping containers.
Exactly.
It's designed to rust on the outside to form a protective shell.
Exactly that principle, applied philosophically. The rust on Hell's armor means she has been exposed to the absolute worst elements of time and conflict for centuries, and she hasn't broken.
It has oxidized her, it has scarred her, but it has allowed her to endure.
She doesn't demand worship from a pristine, untouchable tower. She commands through foundational endurance in the trenches.
It creates this incredible, deeply unsettling paradox for the audience.
The oppressive, rusted subterranean underworld of Helheim is actually the stable, safe reality. It's the only place you won't fall.
While the bright, beautiful, golden heaven of Ma'at is a precarious, terrifying death trap, just waiting for a strong wind.
The script drives this home in Beat 18. Hell is walking slowly through her rusted monuments.
There's no frantic energy, no vibration, no screaming that she is the height of existence.
She just looks at the horizon and says, "Time is the only judge."
She isn't trying to outrun time like Osiris. She has built a machine explicitly designed to survive the end of it.
All right, so we have the board set.
We have this vertical spire of vanity hovering in the sky, and we have this horizontal root of endurance grinding in the earth.
But here's the technical challenge. How does this studio actually capture this impossible mythological scale on a standard screen?
Because it is one thing to write a towering spire and a sprawling necropolis in a script.
But making the audience actually feel that geopolitical tension requires a very specific set of rules.
And the workflow blueprints they've provided detail exactly how they force this narrative visually.
Their Master Channel workflow blueprint is a masterclass in using formatting constraints as a storytelling weapon.
They don't just let the animators do whatever looks cool. They have incredibly strict rules that govern the literal geometry of the project.
The primary rule is what they call the widescreen paradox.
The studio has an absolute mandate to use only a 16:9 long-form cinematic aspect ratio for their projects.
No vertical video cut-downs for social media, no square formats.
They use the extreme horizontal distance of the widescreen frame as a literal weapon against Osiris.
It's a genius understanding of spatial psychology.
If you want to show how tall and powerful a skyscraper is, the instinct is to shoot it vertically, to let it fill the frame from top to bottom so it looks dominant.
But by forcing a horizontal 16:9 frame, you are forcing the viewer to see all the empty, unsupported negative space around the tower.
The blueprint explicitly states that by emphasizing the horizontal expanse, a massive vertical monolith stops looking powerful.
It looks like an unstable, precarious intruder in a world of horizons.
An intruder in a world of horizons, I kept thinking about a boxing ring.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
If the 16 by 9 frame is the canvas of the ring, Osiris is backed into this tight, narrow, vertical sliver in the middle.
He's desperately stretching his arms up, trying to extend out of the top of the frame to escape the format itself.
Meanwhile, Hell is built for the canvas.
Her horizontal, brutalist bulk is comfortably taking up the entire width of the mat. She owns the native format of the video.
The storyboard strictly enforces this with an instruction called the horizon line conflict.
The creators painstakingly map out exactly where these characters and their architecture sit on the horizontal plane.
By placing the gleaming spire on the extreme left of the frame and the sprawling iron necropolis on the extreme right, the vast physical negative space between them literally represents their philosophical void.
The physical distance on the screen is the tension.
But the visual formatting is only half of it. They also have a dialogue constraint that I think every screenwriter on Earth needs to study.
The Master Bible calls it the 10-word rule.
The guiding philosophy is silence is sovereignty.
No single line of dialogue in the entire cinematic project is allowed to exceed 10 words.
The maxim they operate by is, if the visual can tell the story, kill the dialogue.
It is a ruthless editorial standard. It forces the writers to distill these massive, complex geopolitical ideologies into their most potent, absolute forms.
Let me stop you there, because when I first read about the 10-word rule, I thought it was just a gimmick.
A lot of people might think that.
A way to make the characters sound artificially mysterious or stoic, but when you look at the script, it actually forces conflict.
It does.
When Osiris says, "The dirt is a grave," and Hell responds, "The stars do not have foundations," you don't need a 5-minute Shakespearean monologue to understand their worldview.
The 16 by 9 visual clash and the sound design are doing the heavy lifting, allowing the sparse dialogue to strike like a hammer.
Exactly. It prevents the characters from pleading their case to the audience.
Sovereigns don't explain themselves, they state facts.
But what's even more fascinating than the rules themselves is how the Obsidian Archives actually produces this content with their community.
It is a meticulous, highly structured 3-tier release model, primarily facilitated through their Patreon.
The workflow is wild. Tier 1 is just the 30-beat storyboard.
It is released to the community with no script, no dialogue, just rough visual beats and those precise horizon line placements.
The community digests the visual tension first.
Then Tier 2 is the cinematic script, which introduces the sound design cues and the 10-word dialogue.
And finally, Tier 3 is the release of the Master Project Bible, like the one we are analyzing today.
But the most crucial mechanism in that Tier 3 phase is what they call council voting.
The community isn't just passively consuming the final cinematic.
No, they are actively voting on which mythological or historical lore gets the geopolitical noir treatment next.
I was wondering how that impacts the narrative. Doesn't crowdsourcing mythology run the risk of diluting the core philosophy?
How do you mean?
Well, what if the audience just votes for whatever god has the biggest explosions?
That's the beauty of the tiered release model. By the time the community is allowed to vote, they have already spent months analyzing the 30-beat storyboards and the architectural metaphors.
So they get it.
They absolutely get it. The Obsidian Archives has effectively trained their audience to understand the underlying philosophy, the spire versus the root, before the video ever goes into production.
The audience has skin in the game.
They aren't voting for characters, they're voting for how this specific philosophical collision will manifest in a new cultural aesthetic.
It is an incredible masterstroke of community building. You are turning passive viewers into architectural philosophers.
Okay, so the workflow is established. The widescreen frame is locked. The 10-word rule is in effect.
It is time for these two opposing palettes to finally violently grind together. Let's move into movement 3 and 4.
The horizon collision and the collapse of volume.
This is the climax of the narrative, where the ideological Cold War turns hot.
Movement 3 begins at beat 21. It is the physical terrestrial meeting of unchecked power and sacrificial wisdom.
The epic horizontal distance we've been tracking across the 16 by 9 frame finally closes.
Beat 23 is where the collision happens, and the storyboard choice here is stunning.
We don't even see the faces of the gods for the impact, do we?
No, the camera punches in for an extreme macro close-up right on the horizon line.
All we see are their raw color palettes, the clinical indigo and gold of Osiris physically grinding against the frost and rust of Hell.
The script describes the light at the point of impact as physical and heavy. We are talking about severe static friction.
And the sound effect mandated for this frame is the deafening sharp snap of a massive electrical arc.
It's the sound of two incompatible operating systems trying to occupy the same sector of reality.
It's a literal breaking point.
Osiris reacts the only way a spire knows how. He tries to overwhelm the obstacle with sheer volume.
In beat 24, he raises his arms. The gilded spire behind him pulses with this blinding, hyper-exposed white light, and he shouts, "Witness my absolute power."
He is trying to project so much raw energy that he simply erases her from the canvas.
But notice what Hell does in response. She doesn't raise her arms to cast a counterspell.
She doesn't scream back to match his volume.
She simply shifts her weight and anchors her heavy iron boots deeper into the rusted earth.
She becomes the foundation. She absorbs the shockwave.
Which brings us to the inevitable mechanical failure in Movement 4, the collapse of volume.
We hit beat 26. The high-tech, geometric Art Deco steel of the gilded spire begins to buckle.
It is generating and pushing out so much aggressive energy, but it has absolutely no foundation to brace against.
It is pushing off of nothing.
I want you to think about a massive suspension bridge where the main cables suddenly snap under tension.
Oh, that's a terrifying image.
Compared to a solid concrete bunker taking artillery fire. The spire was built entirely on tensile strength stretching upward, pulling against gravity.
But when it meets the compressive, immovable force of the obsidian root, its architecture simply cannot process the resistance.
The sensory details of the collapse are visceral. You hear the high-pitched scream of buckling steel vibrating through the cinematic frame.
Osiris's pristine geometric gold rings, which have been spinning effortlessly this whole time, actually shatter into physical dust.
And in beat 27, the god of absolute volume, the sovereign who arrogantly declared that gravity is a choice, finally breaks.
His blinding radiance fails, harsh indigo shadows aggressively swallow him, and his final words before the fall are just a stuttering realization.
He just says, it cannot hold.
It is the only geopolitical outcome mathematically possible in this universe.
He sought structural support from an ideology designed strictly for endless expansion, not for holding weight under pressure.
And the moment the true pressure of existence hit him, he shattered.
Beat 28 is the ultimate payoff to the widescreen paradox we discussed earlier.
The massive vertical spire collapses, cascading down into the bottomless void like a shower of falling stars.
Completely vacates the left side of the frame.
But the horizontal iron necropolis on the right side, it remains perfectly, stubbornly still.
The sound effect for the collapse isn't a massive explosion. It is the hollow, rushing roar of an empire being sucked into a vacuum.
Visually, what the audience is watching is what the Project Bible terms a shadow script takeover.
The violent chiaroscuro clash ends with the gold and white palettes being systematically extinguished.
They don't just fade. They are actively consumed and replaced by Hell's dominant frost and rust.
The environment itself rejects his ideology.
And the resolution in beats 29 and 30 is haunting.
The dust settles. Hell stands completely alone in the 16x9 frame.
Her brutalist armor is scarred with a brand new layer of rust, fresh proof of the shockwave she just endured.
The camera pulls back, and she delivers the thesis of the entire Obsidian archives in 6 words.
Endurance is the only victory.
The final cinematic frame is a masterclass in negative space. It is a flat, infinite horizontal line of frost and gray.
There's just a single spark of amber light from Hell's runes in the center of the frame.
The audio track goes to absolute dead silence, followed only by the hollow whistle of an emptied tomb.
The solar sovereignty is completely extinguished. The obsidian root is sustained.
Honestly, it gives me chills, the sheer rigor of this narrative construction.
It is not just a cool animation about underworld gods fighting. It is a highly disciplined philosophical proof.
It proves that an empire built on the vanity of volume will always, inevitably, shatter against a root forged in the sacrifice of endurance.
It serves as a structural warning. It forces the audience to acknowledge that power isn't about how high you can reach when the sky is clear and the market is good.
Real power is determined by how deep your roots go when the inevitable shockwave hits.
Which brings us back to you, listening right now.
The Obsidian Archives uses mythological hegemons, brutalist architecture, and massive soundscapes to tell this story, but their mandate applies to the structural integrity of our daily lives.
True power is found in the dirt, in the unglamorous foundation, and in what you are physically and mentally willing to withstand.
But as we synthesize all of this, I want to leave you with a final thought that extends beyond the script we just analyzed.
We've established that the root survives the spire.
Hell wins. Endurance is the only victory, but what happens the day after victory?
That's the real question, isn't it?
If you commit your entire existence to becoming the obsidian root, if you build your life solely around the capacity to withstand trauma, to brace for impact, and to accumulate rust, do you eventually lose the capacity to dream?
An environment built only for survival is infinitely stable, but it is also heavy, cold, and entirely horizontal.
There is no warmth in the Iron Acropolis.
The question is the cycle doomed to repeat?
Does a world locked in the grip of pure endurance eventually become so oppressive, so focused on mere survival, that it inevitably births a new spire?
Perhaps we need the vanity of volume, the arrogant dreamers who build without foundations, just to remind those in the trenches what the sun looks like before it all comes crashing down again.
Something to think about. Until next time, keep digging deep.